Well, okay, he talks about this kind of forgetfulness, so that we project, we make the projection, and then we forget about it. Of course, this is, I think, to be understood in historical terms rather than I make a projection right now and then I forget about it because of, okay. So this is the most important feature. The difference, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm right, I'm wrong on this. I think the most important difference between modern projectivists, I mean contemporary like Richard Joyce and other projectivists and Nietzsche is that contemporary projectivists try to give a detailed account of what happened when we make this projection, when we project value onto the world. I don't think we can find this kind of specificity in Nietzsche, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if you have any.
I was just going to suggest that maybe the drive psychology plays some role. I mean, there are places in Nietzsche where he speaks of every drive having been scored against and so on. So
well, the other, okay, I forgot this. Of course, there is also his reference to the will to power. So the projection is the expression of our will to power, and he repeated this many times. So, and also the drives as expression of will to power, of our will to power. So there's also this, of course, this.
You had a question?
yeah, I have lots of questions. But trying to limit myself. I mean, I think it's really great that you have a way of reconciling cognitivism with projectivism. It seems to have been kind of the big problem in reconciling the kind of two big sets of views that you find expressed in Nietzsche's work. So, but I wanted to say something about fictionalism, which just occurred to me, and I think listening to you speaking maybe seems actually relevant, which is, so when Joyce talked about fictionalism, that's been called, I can't remember if it's by him or someone else, revolutionary fictionalism, in the sense that he begins by saying that error theory is true, and so we must provide our practices, so we engage in some kind of pretense that the things are true. And so there are fictionalists, like Mark Haldren, who calls himself a hermeneutic fictionalist, who has this view that it's in the nature of human practice and human moral discourse that we've been pretending all along. And I just wondered if that's maybe more like what Nietzsche is doing.
Well, this was the point that I was trying to explain together, but maybe I was not that clear. The distinction is once again between descriptive and revisionary meta-ethics. So I think for sure that Nietzsche is both an epistemic and moral fictionalist about descriptive meta-ethics. So they say that what happened. But the problem is about revisionary meta-ethics. Revisionary meta-ethics. So would Nietzsche defend fictionalism as Joyce does? This is the point. Hussein says he does, but of course it's complicated. If you take into consideration his insistence on errors, on illusions.
I mean, I don't know enough about Weinger, but it seems that probably other people in this room now. But it seems like that kind of fictionalism that was actually around either in Nietzsche's lifetime or shortly after, kind of in that intellectual climate, was much more like hermeneutic or descriptive fictionalism.
Yeah, this. Well, interesting the specialism is that, of course, Weinger. Some years after Nietzsche wrote on these, precisely referred to Nietzsche and also to Kant, if I'm not wrong, and to Lange.
I mean, it seems that there's almost scope for saying that he's a descriptive fictionalist, and then to say that, I mean, the other thing I really wanted to ask you was to try and put some pressure on the notion that he's an anti-realist. So, to put some pressure on the idea that he's an anti-realist. So if you look at the things in the last years when he's writing magnum opus and he's saying revaluation of value was going to happen to the aegis of the will to power.
I know, this is...
You might think that he thinks that, to now we've all been in error, but and so the passage in Twilight, which is the passage of error theory passage, then it says moral facts are no facts, and usually when Nietzsche talks about morality, he means some kind of particular conception of value, which has a particular historical constellation. So, you could read what he's doing in Twilight saying, but morality is this completely mistaken thing, and I have an account of that. But the sense in which it's mistaken is that what's actually good for human beings is power. This is an Antichrist too. What is power? They just wonder what your response would be.
This is the eternal problem with Nietzsche's meta-ethics, and I think no one now has provided a good account of how to reconcile both. In this talk, I just wanted to focus on Projectivism, because if you begin to try to find a solution, then it's really hard, I know.
But it's not so. When you attribute descriptive projectivism to him, it's not that he thinks that just any kind of discourse about the good for humans is projection.
Sorry?
So he's not saying that just any kind of discourse about human good has to be projection. Something less than that.
I don't know, as I said, okay, this is a work in progress, but my answer right now would be, you can try to reconcile a projectivist account with a kind of moral realism based on will to power, but it's let's say that I still haven't found a way to do that, and I'm not sure that even either Nietzsche was not conscious of of course we are working with categories of 20th century people. No, I know, this was in the introduction. I'm perfectly conscious and aware that we are using.
You are doing contemporary moral projections on Nietzsche's texts. That to someone who's not very familiar with Nietzsche, that is very hard to follow. You guys have been using a lot of isms, which were only made up a few years ago, and in a sense, we kind of have trouble finding out whether Nietzsche belongs to a particular category or not. We wonder whether this is the exact method to follow. If I understand correctly, your main argument for sustaining that Nietzsche is a sort of proto-error theorist is the kind of language he uses. He uses words like illusion or error or mistake or something like that. But if I'm not mistaken, if I understand correctly, that sort of language can be termed as part of an error theory in light of our notion of error theory. So perhaps Nietzsche understood those terms as something different, as something synonymous with some sort of inadequacy, not providing it with the sort of cognitivist dimension with which we attribute it today with our categories. So my question to you is, aren't you afraid that your whole argument is based on a categorical projection of contemporary meta-ethical terms, which might endanger our access to what Nietzsche is actually trying to say?
Can I add something to that? Because I really had some kind of comment or provocation which was very much in this line. Even for ones who are very familiar with Nietzsche, as I think it's my case, it's sometimes very hard to follow these new labels that one really wants to. It's a contemporary strategy, I think, or very recent stretch of you really find a lot of articles like Nietzsche's projectivism, or Nietzsche's projectivism, Nietzsche's fictionalism, Nietzsche's anti-realism, Nietzsche's ism, and that's totally foreign to his own writing style, to his own philosophy. I wonder if we do get something, does Nietzsche's scholarship really acquire some understanding through these labels, or it's rather the contrary? Do we get more confused with all these labeling?
Okay, I skipped in this talk the whole introduction on why Nietzsche metaethics. I'm aware of the risk of anachronism, and I think every scholar working on this is. The gain, I think, is that using categories of contemporary metaethics, we can clarify what Nietzsche's position on metaethics is. Sometimes the problem that I find on when reading secondary literature on Nietzsche from a philosopher of continental tradition on morality or on theology is that they tend to use, I don't want to say that they play with words, but it's hard to understand at the end which is Nietzsche's position. So the advantage of using these categories when interpreting Nietzsche's philosophy, I think, is that, well, for instance, how do we reconcile, even if we don't use the categories of metaethics, how do we reconcile what Nietzsche says about the moral claim, the moral values that he attacks, and the moral values that he defends? There's a kind of contrast. So how do we reconcile this, even if we don't use these categories? The advantage of using these categories is that, well, if we show that when Nietzsche talks about negative metaethics and when Nietzsche talks about positive metaethics, well, if we say that on the one hand we have moral anti-realism, on the other hand we have moral realism, then we have to explain how Nietzsche can possibly combine these two opposing, contrasting views.
But why do we have?
Because
Nietzsche himself did refuse labeling.
Yeah,
Even
but
he wants
it's not
to
for-
say,
yeah,
right? Maybe he
yeah,
wanted to escape any kind of label. Maybe sometimes he's really not, doesn't really fit any of them. Maybe sometimes he's in between. And maybe intentionally, right? I just make you very particular. Like following your
Because labels are
presentation.
projections also.
Hmm?
Because labels are projections also, and this almost
Exactly. Also, referring to Nietzsche, this is, I do agree, it's totally a projection. I mean,
Okay.
I think Nietzsche would call himself a projectivist.
Let's think about James' pragmatism. The title pragmatism is a new name of some old ways of thinking. Okay. Now with fictionalism, we have the same thing. So what Weihinger does is summing up what he has during this time. Kant, Lange, Nietzsche, and he says, okay, this way of thinking, this is common to these people, is fictionalism. I'm calling this fiction, the name that I give to this. But in this case, and in sense, the fact that Nietzsche is a fictionalist is a tautology, because Weihinger defines fictionalism and as Nietzsche's view. But in this way, if we think about Nietzsche as a fictionalist, we make him interacting with some people that with a debate that usually he's not traditionally connected to. So he made of Nietzsche a more neo-Kantian thinker or more. So this is something positive thinking. Of course, is a we give him boundaries, which he maybe has not. But in a sense, applying these categories can be helpful just in order to organize the thing and helping us using it also for contemporary philosophy, for example.
Yeah, I understand Andreas and Martin's points, but I agree with you. I think that this is perhaps a pseudo-programming, the afraid to use categories that really don't fit into the author. I mean, what we do understand, for example, with the word perspectivism or fictionalism is obviously not the same that these authors were having in mind in the 19th century or the beginning of the 20th century. So in a certain sense, there is always a rupture with the origin of the idea that had been formed by the authors. Let me come back, if I may, to a point raised at the beginning of the discussion by Klaus. And I think that I understood correctly what Klaus had in mind, and I would like to come back to that. I mean, following your talk, which I actually enjoyed very much, we see that Nietzsche, in fact, points to a perspectivism that enables one to understand multiple perspectives, multiple points of view on the same object. And I think that Klaus' question was, so in the end, if you have multiple projections on the world, where does then lie the objects themselves, right? I mean, what is the ontological substance that is still available on the world itself, right? So this is a question of, I mean, I would like you to clarify a little bit this point. And the other thing that I would like to hear a bit more is the connection between Kant and the new Kantians. We have talked a little bit about Weininger, but for example, I would be very, very much interested in knowing a little bit about the connections between Nietzsche and, say, Cassirer, or other member of the new Kantian school.
Okay, with regard to the first question, if I understood you well, Nietzsche is of course not an idealist, so he says, well, we have of course an object. I don't know, probably the scheme that I made for you would be helpful here. Okay, sure. Yeah, this one. So, of course, we have an object which has specific features, and the features of the object causes emotions or sentiments in the spectators. But what happens, and then this is the projectivist moment, is that we project the qualities that the object provokes in us, as it were in the object. So, for instance, let's say a dog that is being beaten, probably we feel a sense of repulsion, and then we take that act as immoral. But what we do is to project that the quality of being moral onto the object. So
yeah, right.
Okay.